Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz making a bold call asking fellow CEOs not to donate to political campaigns until Washington gets its act together. He's joining us now from Seattle for a lot more on this. Look, Howard, you say this is really a moment that you couldn't ignore, that you had to speak out. Tell us about the letter you sent to CEOs on Friday and then subsequently the letter that you sent on Monday.
Well, I think, Poppy, as I'm sure you would agree, and I know your viewers would, that as we observed the debt crisis situation in Washington and the negotiation that took place between both parties, we ended up, in my view, with a significant problem and a crisis of confidence in America that has now spilled up into the financial markets and around the world. Mm-hmm. And that crisis of confidence, in my view, really speaks to the leadership in Washington. When I began to kind of ask the question, what could we do, I uncovered the fact that almost $4 billion was spent in 2008 in the presidential election cycle among the president and Congress. $4 billion. And I just thought, given the ideology and the partisanship that all it seems that people are interested in is re-election, and that re-election is the lifeblood of it is fundraising. And I just thought, given the situation and the profound disappointment that we all feel, let's send a powerful message to Washington that we do no longer want to embrace the status quo and we want to see change. Unfortunately, in this case, that change, I think, and the signal of change is about the fact that we're not going to contribute any more money until we ask respectfully Congress to go back to work, reach a long-term debt ceiling deal that will remove the cloud of uncertainty in the world, and I think begin to focus like a laser on the most important aspect of the American economy, which is job creation.
What has the response been that you've gotten from your fellow CEOs? Did you get a response from them? Do they agree with you? Do they say, Howard, that's too radical, we can't do that? What are they saying?
Well, it's only been about 30 hours since the letter went out. I've heard from thousands of people, many of whom are just regular working people who I've never met in my life, who are sending me emails and ideas about their level of support. I have heard from many CEOs. Most importantly, the initiative was endorsed by both the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ, which I think is a big, feather in the cap of this initiative, which demonstrates the bipartisanship and the need to send a signal to Washington. I suspect in the coming days, people who will be signing the pledge with me will be both Republican and Democrat CEOs who have had enough.
But, Howard, there are those that will watch this and say, look at these CEOs, the folks that have trillions of dollars on their balance sheets, some more cash than they've had in decades, and they're not hiring in a meaningful way. You've been outspoken on the issue of job creation. What do you have to say to that front? Should the CEOs that you wrote this letter to and that you're asking not to give money to Washington, should they turn around and use that money to hire?
Well, you're exactly right that there is probably more cash on the balance sheets of most American companies today than in many, many years. And I think in that letter, it wasn't only about stopping to give contributions. It was also to strongly encourage American business leaders to grow their companies and start hiring and not wait for Washington. In fact, I said that I think the feeling of fear and anxiety in America can be stopped if we as business leaders raise the level of awareness about that we are going to grow our company, we have confidence in the American consumer, we're going to start hiring again. And I think we can spread a feeling of confidence in America without waiting for Washington to do it. But we do need Washington to solve the problems of the crisis of uncertainty.
Do you put some onus on executives, chief executives around this country to hire in a meaningful way, in a sustainable way? Is there, at this point in time with our economy in the situation it's in, is there some responsibility that they should be taking, even if they can operate their companies, which we know they can, profitably with many fewer people? At some point, is there just this moral calling to hire, or is that going too far?
Well, Poppy, I'm not here to criticize or indict American business people for what they're doing or not doing. I'm here to float a very significant idea and hopefully be a catalyst for change. But I do feel strongly that American business people are not hiring or not growing their companies because of the anxiety and the uncertainty that is in Washington. So these things are unfortunately linked together. In the letter, I'm very clear in saying that Washington needs to get its act together, and American business people can't wait for them. And we need to jumpstart the economy, and we can.